everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another video for you, doing something a little bit different. This is a semi-TBR video for the entirety of 2025, but the reason I say it's a semi-TBR is because these are 8 books that I may or may not get to. Of course, as we are now nearing the end of the year, I have begun recently, even going back as far as a month ago or two, starting to think about what I'm going to be planning to read next year. I've already planned out quite a few things. I have several series that I am intending to get back into and things like that. So I've already filled out a good half or so of my entire TBR for next year. And of course, these things are subject to change. I don't want to hold myself completely to that. I don't want to not allow myself some freedom if I decide that I don't want to read something in a particular time. But that is something that I have begun to think about. And so I thought that it might be fun because there are some things that I am very much set on I really want to read next year. There are also some things that I really do want to read next year, but I don't know if I will or not. And so these ones are ones that I would like to read next year. They might make it, they might not, I'm not sure. So I thought it might be interesting, both as a way for me to share some of those with you and also if you would like, so I could gauge interest in them. So if there's anything in here that you guys think I'd particularly enjoy, things you'd particularly like to hear me talk about, then those things can become higher priority or things like that. These are just some things that I want to get to next year. Don't know if I will. I'll put them in if I can, but we'll see. Like I said, I have 8 books here to talk about, or technically more than 8 books, but I have 8 selections, 2 of which are standalone books. I have one duology, or at least the first book in a duology, and I have a couple of trilogies, and I have a couple of larger series. And of course, I'm not guaranteeing that I will read everything, like, you know, for a large series. I have for example, a 5-book series on here. I'm not guaranteeing that I will read all 5 books in that series, but I am at least thinking about beginning that series, potentially finishing it, but at least beginning it. So this is not like me saying, oh, I'm going to read every single book in all of these series and things. It's just things that I might start, and things like that. So I suppose we'll get right started with the, I'm going to do the 2 standalones first, then I'm going to do the duology, then the trilogies, and so on. Increasing in length of series as we go. So first things first, I have Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This is one that I got earlier this year, and I've been looking forward to reading for a few reasons. First of all, it's a classic, and I want to read some more classics. It struck me, first of all, because it is, you know, about France and things like that. It's originally, I believe, in French, and has since been translated. And I'm not huge into French culture, but I have looked into it before. I studied French back in school and things like that, so I know some of the language, I know some of the culture, so I'm interested in it for that reason. It's a classic that is loved by many, many people, been adapted many times into like stage plays and movies and things of that nature. And also it struck me as particularly interesting because when I think of most classics, I think they tend to be a little on the shorter side, whereas this is a behemoth of a book. It's huge. So I think it would be interesting, and it's one that I would really like to read. And this, again, like I said earlier, this is one that I would like to get to next year, but I don't know for sure if I will. So it's like, I was thinking whether to put it on, you know, for the mostly for sure include or hold off on it for now. Decided I'm going to hold off on it, and if I can get to it, then I will. The next one that I have to talk about, my other standalone, is going to be The Stand by Stephen King. Now, this fully depends on whether or not I get any more Stephen King books between now and whenever I read this next year, probably in October, because I like to save a lot of my horror books for October. Although this isn't maybe as much a horror, it's more of like a dystopian type post-apocalyptic thing. I don't really know. I know it's like post-apocalyptic. I don't know if it's necessarily full horror. But Stephen King is typically considered a horror author, and this is considered a fairly dark book from what I've seen. So it might fit in October, but either way. This, like I said, depends on what else I get, because there are other Stephen King books that if I can get my hands on them, I would prefer to read before this one. Books including the likes of It, or Pet Sematary, or perhaps some other ones, and things like that. So this fully depends on whether or not I get any of those books before I feel like reading another Stephen King. I'm thinking the next one that I am currently planning to read is going to be The Shining, and then this would probably be the next one after that. So if in between reading The Shining and The Stand, if I get any of those other books that I want to prioritize, then those will go first, which basically dictates whether or not I do get to this next year, because I am intending to probably read The Shining and The Stand next year, but if something else comes up between those two, then this one would get pushed off the TBR. But I am intending to read this one fairly soon, and I want to read it before I start the Dark Tower series as well, because I know this book is very important for that series. It's one that I'm really looking forward to, because I have heard many, many great things about it. It seems to be one of the fan favorite Stephen King books. So that's my other standalone. So moving on now, we have the first book. I said it was in a duology. It's actually part of a planned trilogy, but there's only 2 books out right now. And who knows if the third one will ever come out, because that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, the first book in the Kingkiller Chronicle. I am hoping to read both of the currently released Kingkiller books at some point. Currently, the only one that I own is The Name of the Wind. And this one I want to read again for many reasons. First of all, it's a very popular book. It's very beloved on BookTube. Not everybody loves this book. I've certainly heard plenty of people criticize it and say they didn't get the hype. But because it is a very popular book, it's one that I want to read, because I want to be more well-read in kind of the BookTube, maybe not classics necessarily, but the books that are well-loved on BookTube, and things like that. So this is one that I really want to read, and mostly just the popularity of it, the notoriety of it. I really want to check it out, see where my opinion lands in regards to whether I think the hype is warranted or not, and things like that. This is one that I've had for a little bit and have been planning to read for a little bit. So for that reason, I really want to put it on my TBR for next year. But again, we'll see whether I do or not. This is, I think, of the books on this list, one of the more likely ones, because like I said, I really want to get to it too, because it's so popular and things like that. So I really want to read it, but we'll see. Next, I have 3 trilogies that I want to talk about. So first, I'm going to mention the Traveler's Gate trilogy by Will Wight. As some of you may know, I am recently finishing up Will Wight's other series, The Elder Empire, which is a 6-book series made up of 2 trilogies, which I currently, at time of recording this, and probably around the time this video comes out, will be reading. And so I am finishing up that series, so I want to read another Will Wight series next year, at least get started on one. And I'm basically going between Traveler's Gate and Cradle, which Cradle I didn't decide to include on this list, because honestly, between the two, I'm leaning towards this one just because it's a trilogy, it's a little shorter. And after having read a 6-book series, I might like to read something a little quicker. But kind of similar to Name of the Wind, of the ones that I'm including on this list, this is one of the more likely ones, mostly because I have had it for like a year and a half now, and I still haven't read it. So that also kind of factors into things like the amount of time that I've had something. If I've had it for longer, I want to get to it sooner. But this is one that I would like to get to, but again, I've just got so much on the TBR for next year that I'm planning to do that maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. I'm hoping I will. We'll see. The next one that I have to talk about is going to be the Conquerors trilogy by Timothy Zahn. I have read several of Timothy Zahn's Star Wars books, and I own this as well as his first Icarus book, which is The Icarus Hunt, of his original sci-fi book. So I own 4 of his original novels. Haven't read any of them yet, but I have heard great things about them. And so I really would like to read the Conquerors trilogy at some point. I've had these for a little bit as well. But again, just not sure if I'll get to them or not, but I really would like to, because I don't read a whole lot of science fiction. I read a lot of like Star Wars, but I don't read a lot of just plain old original science fiction. And so this is one that I would like to get to. And again, a little more likely than not, because it is a short one. It's a trilogy, so it's not like a big series or anything like that. So we'll see if I get to it. I hope I do. And also, I just want to read more of Star Wars authors' original works. I don't want to be one of those people who, when it comes to people who write for Star Wars, I only read their Star Wars stuff. I also, for those that I am particularly interested in, want to dive into some of their original work as well. So that's kind of why I want to read this trilogy. The last trilogy I have to talk about is The Broken Empire by Mark Lawrence, otherwise known as the Prince of Thorns trilogy. There's a few reasons I want to read this one. First of all, again, I've had it for a little bit now, but also this one is also one that has been quite popular. And Mark Lawrence is a pretty well-liked author, especially for his library trilogy that has been coming out recently, which began with The Book That Wouldn't Burn, which I heard so many amazing things about when it came out. Would like to read that as well sometime, but I don't have it currently. But I did get the Broken Empire trilogy because, around the time it came out, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever it was, I'm not fully sure. But I remember hearing a lot about it, even though I was not super into fantasy books at the time. I would, anytime I would go into a bookstore or things like that, I would see this book around and it seemed popular. And having now gotten more involved with Fantasy BookTube and things like that, it is a series that is rather popular. And of course, like I said, Mark Lawrence is still doing very well with his new books. And so I really want to read this one kind of for the same reason as Name of the Wind, which is because it is very popular, it's very loved, and I just kind of want to see if it's worth the hype. And it's a trilogy, so again, a little more likely because it's shorter. So we'll see. I would like to get to this one, but again, because of everything else that I might be getting to or things that I am intending to get to, just not fully sure if I will. And that brings us to the final two picks that I have, which are both larger series. I have a 5-book series, which I currently own all the books in, and I also have a 9-book series, which I only have the first few. So first, I have the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams, of course. I recently bought the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is a bind-up of all 5 Hitchhiker's books all in one volume, which is really cool. And this one I've heard great things about, obviously. I've known about this series for like 15 years now, and I've heard great things about it, so I would like to read it because it is very popular, even outside of like Sci-Fi Fantasy BookTube. It's just a very popular book in general, very well beloved. And also because it's a little bit unique for me. I don't read a whole lot of more comedy-centric books outside of like Discworld, and even those I haven't read a whole lot of. And so I would like to read some of these books because it would be nice to finally have read Hitchhikers, and also, it might make for nice, fun, light reads in between some other books and things like that. And it would also be nice to have another series under my belt. I'm intending, if I do start this, because I have it all in one volume, I'm intending to read the entire series next year if I do read it, because I have it all in one volume. Don't know yet if I would split it up or if I'd read it all at once, but it is one that I would like to get to, but again, just don't know if I will. The final thing that I have to talk about in this video is one that is, I don't know if it's more likely than not necessarily, but it is one of the ones on this list that I am the most excited to read, and that is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I currently own the first 3 books in the series. And kind of similar to Conquerors, I really want to read this because I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi, and I really want to read more of it. Also, this seems to be one of the most popular and beloved sci-fi series of the last couple of decades. Everybody on BookTube, it seems like, has read and loved this series. And so I really want to read it because, everyone else has talked about how great it is. I really want to experience it for myself. And all that kind of thing. So I own the first 3 books, so maybe I'll start it next year. Maybe I'll get through those 3. Maybe I'll only get through the first one. Maybe I won't get to any of them. But this is one that I do really want to read. Of the books on this list, like I said, it's one of the ones that I am most excited to get into. So I do very much hope to read this series next year, or at least start it. So we'll see if I do or not. Like I said, there's a lot that I want to read next year, a lot of stuff I'm already planning on, so that kind of depends whether or not I get these on there or not, but I am hoping that I will be able to read these. So that just about wraps up the video. 8 books and series and trilogies and things like that that I would like to read or start next year. Might get to these, might not. Some of these might end up on my TBR next year. Some of them may get pushed off to later. We'll see. I just wanted to make this video just to kind of talk about some of these books, let you guys know what I'm thinking I might want to read next year, but haven't quite decided on yet. And also, if there's anything here that you guys would like for me to talk about on the channel, you can let me know in the comments. So if there's anything here that you really like, or anything that you maybe haven't read yet, but you're interested to hear my thoughts on and whether I recommend it or not, let me know all of that in the comments. And if you'd like to play along in the comments as well and talk about some books that you might get to next year, may or may not get to, feel free to leave any of those in the comments as well. Of course, I do have several other books that I am definitely planning to read next year, but I will be saving that for when I actually do my TBRs and things like that every month. But I am intending to get back into some series that I have not read in some time, which is very exciting. So that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.